Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Money Bear podcast. This is your host, Chloe Daniels, better known as Chloe Bear, money coach on the internet. This is the Money Bear podcast where we talk about all things related to money. We get real bear, but we talk about income, we talk about investing, we talk about debt payoff, all of the things. But before we do that, of course, I just gotta like ramble for a few minutes about my life and then give you guys a quick money tip. So, things that have been going on in my life right now. Gosh, honestly, I'm just really battling with fatigue still after COVID. It's been rough. I feel like I had COVID a month ago as of today. I got it around the 4th of July and today is August 4th and I feel like I am still just not 100% myself. Like I still have the brain fog. I still just feel tired all the time. But I will say exercising has helped and getting moving is helping. And my followers have told me that I need to drink more water and do things like that, and that might help my recovery a little bit faster. But that's the only like thing that I feel like I've been dealing with this week. This week has been really, really busy. I just had one of my largest launches for the Lazy Investors course, actually the largest launch, which was pretty exciting. But I'm gearing up to head to LA in a few days. And I'm only going to be in LA for about 10 days. And it's going to be a whirlwind because I have so many friends who are in LA. So almost every day I'm going to be dedicating to seeing people rather than actually working. And I don't feel like I really prepared myself for that. Like, I don't have extra content. There might be a lot of reposting happening. So we'll see how I do. It gives me a little bit of anxiety knowing I didn't really set myself up for success on this one. But luckily, I've created a business where I don't have to be hands on all of the time. It's more like I have these little sprints throughout the year where it's like there's these little sprints where I do have to work a lot and efficiently. But then there are periods of time where I can kind of take a step back and chill out a little bit. So I think August and September and October are probably going to be very busy. And then in November and December, things kind of settle down. But I use the opportunity of settling down to do stuff that I wouldn't normally do. Like in November, December this year, I'm probably going to update the website, clobear.com. Clobear.com, if you've seen it, you probably go and you're like, wait, is this the same Clobear? Because it's like back from my mental health and relationship blogging days. And that's most of the content on there. There's hundreds of blog posts, but most of the content is related to like when I was going through therapy and when I was like chronicling that journey. And it just doesn't really jive with the brand these days. There is a lot of money content on there as well. I will say there's probably a solid 15, 20 posts or more just related to money. But I kind of want to bring it up to speed and make it a lot more user friendly. And right now it's just not there. But I just don't have time and I don't want to hire somebody to do it because I actually really enjoy doing website design. So if you go and you look at the lazyinvestorscourse.com, that was all designed by me. Clobear Money Coach was all designed by me as well. And granted, like I'm using templates, obviously, I'm not a coder or anything along those lines, but there's just like a very certain way that I want things in the website arena. So I decided, when things are slower in November and December, I'm going to do that. But yeah, that's the riveting stuff that's going on in Clobear's life. It's so funny. When I was making breakfast today, I was thinking about what am I going to talk about on the intro outro for the episodes that I've got coming up today. And I was like, I don't know. I just don't know if I have that much going on in my life right now. Um, there has to be something else. It's one of those things where I'm still really learning boundaries when it comes to podcasting because there's things that are going on in some of my friends and family's lives that would definitely be relevant for a money podcast. But I have to talk to them before and be like, hey, do you mind if I talk about this on the podcast? But at the same time, I don't know if I want to give them my opinions on certain things. I don't know if I've mentioned, speaking of family, my mom is now working for me, and that has been truly a blessing because for the last 10 years almost, she hasn't been working a full time job. I don't think she's really been doing much working at all. And for a while, that really was impacting her mental health and just kind of like feeling like she didn't have a purpose and not really feeling like she had skills. Once you get into your mid to late 50s, sorry, mom, for saying that, but it gets harder. Ageism is a real thing. And I can't imagine getting to this place where you've taken a break and then in your 50s you're ready to start working again, but nobody wants to hire you because you're in your 50s, you're too qualified for the jobs that you want, and you're not qualified enough for, or that you're too qualified for certain jobs and you're not qualified enough for other jobs. And that is a really scary position to be in. And I've talked to her about it before, where she's like, if I could do things over again, obviously I would. But it's really scary to get to that stage in your life and not feel independent and not feel like you have options. Like, once we get into our 50s and 60s, that's the time of our lives that we do want to have options, I feel like. And I think that that's one of the many reasons that I would probably never recommend a woman stay at home and not work to raise their children. And I think that's not fair, unfortunately. But we don't really live in a world where it's a good move unless you've got like a prenup that states, like, if I stay home and I raise the kids, well, you're gonna, pay me X amount of dollars to do that, so I have my own money, and if we split, like, I'm going to get this kind of compensation, because it is hard to take a career break. And then if something happens and you were to lose that partnership or whatever, you don't want to be dependent on one person. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that. And I know it's an unpopular opinion for some people, but I think it's the only thing that really makes sense, if you're trying to protect yourself, because it's the only way to protect yourself is have your own money. But anyway, that all leads back to the beauty that has been hiring my mom. And my mom's very trainable and she's super excited to be working on Clobert. She has started taking over my Pinterest. So if you start to see some new pins on there, she's trying out new things. But she's also like, I ask her if she wants to take on a task, and if she wants to take it on, she'll take it on. So she's redesigning a freebie for me. She likes doing the creative stuff. So it's just been really, really nice being able to bring her into my world and have her contribute. And it's also really cool because she loves data, she loves analyzing that stuff, and she loves supporting me and the business. So that has been really cool. And I guess that's kind of what's been going on in my life, is getting her up to speed and feeling really good that I've seen a difference in how happy she is. Like, she's a lot more excited and she's got something to do and she's enjoying it. And that has just been the best gift. So, just tooting my own horn over here, I guess. I don't know if you guys can see Logan in the background. She's like, "What are you doing, mom? What are you talking about?" She's so cute. I love her so much. Oh, another thing, Logan today, she heard her name. So I've been taking Logan to CrossFit, because here in San Diego, and actually a lot of CrossFit gyms, it's pretty normal to bring your dog like everywhere, but especially at CrossFit gyms, it's pretty standard no matter where you are. But San Diego, it's like you can bring your dog everywhere. I've never been somewhere where like people bring their dogs into Starbucks, but they do here. And anyway, Logan has been coming to CrossFit with me in the mornings. And what I do is I'll tie her up, like she'll get to run around for a second. And then once we get started with working out, I'll tie her up to like the stairway. There's like a little bar over by the stairway, so she can like be close and still pay attention, but she's like, not in anybody's way. Well, Miss Houdini decided she was done with that and escaped not only once, but twice. I don't know how she did it because I didn't see it. But all of a sudden, I have this naked lady, AKA Logan, running around the gym, super, super proud of herself for her Houdini like skills. So that happened twice. Luckily, the trainer who is leading the class is in love with Logan. And so he took the liberty of being her like keeper for the rest of the class. And he took her leash, he took her on a lap around the building. And I was like, bro, thank you so much for like watching her. I'll just make sure to tighten her harness next time, because clearly this is not working. And it's so funny when Logan does stuff like this, I can't help but be a little bit proud of her stubbornness. Because to me, I'm like, you went and you got it, girl. You knew what you wanted and you said, screw all these limitations these people have placed on me. I'm going to get it. I'm going to do it. So that is little lady Logan. And I'm so lucky to be her mom. So let's get to the money tip, and then I will introduce you guys to my guest today, who is one of my closest friends and somebody who I've connected to in the finance creator space, and am so privileged to have been able to do that. But first, what is the money tip of the day? So I have spent all morning working on a new module for my course, a new bonus module, and it's about investing as a solopreneur or a business owner. And my absolute favorite way to invest as a solopreneur is first, don't forget the fact that you can still use your IRAs. You can use your Roth IRA, you can use your traditional IRA. Those are still options to you. And until you max those out, that's what you should be doing. It's the easiest, least path of resistance. So you can decide if you want to use the traditional deductible or if you want to do the Roth IRA. But that is one of the nice things is that if you are a business owner and you're not working a W-2 job or a 9 to 5 job, you don't have to worry about your traditional IRA not being deductible. It's going to be automatically deductible because you are not contributing to another qualified plan. Now, that is, I think a lot of business owners' priority is reducing their taxable income in the years that they contribute. So the traditional might be the one that you want to go with, or you get that tax-free growth in a Roth if you're under those income restrictions, which I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say it's around $140,000 if you are single filer, and like around 206,000. I need to memorize these, but they change every year, so I'm not the best at memorizing those numbers, but that's why we have Google. So anyway, my favorite way to invest as a solopreneur is the solo 401k, also known as the individual 401k. Now, the reason I like the solo 401k so much is because it's the one that allows you to contribute the most amount of money than any other retirement account out there. So with the solo 401k, you can actually contribute $61,000 in a year because you are contributing not only as the employee, like you would if you were working a regular 9 to 5 job, but you also get to contribute as the employer, which is really cool. So that gives you the opportunity to max it out at $61,000 if your net business income is high enough. So on the employee side of the solo 401k, you can put in $20,500 in 2022. And on the employer side of things, you can put in it ends up working out to be about 20% of your net business income. Now, we're not going to go through the calculation on how to get to that, but what I will say is both Bankrate and a few other places have pretty decent calculators to figure out how much you can contribute to the employer side of your solo 401k, because even though the guideline is about 20% of your net business income, you've got to subtract half of your self-employment tax, but first you have to calculate your taxable income out of that, and it just gets slightly complicated. So I definitely recommend checking out some of the solo 401k contribution calculators. I can leave links to those down below. But I always recommend when we're dealing with complicated equations and things like that, that you check with your tax preparer at the end of the year as well. So last year was my first year having a solo 401k, and what I loved about it was again the high income limits. But I was already maxing out my solo 4 or my workplace 401k. So the solo 401k allowed me to put additional dollars into it on the employer side. But because I knew that the way to calculate that was a little convoluted in terms of how much I could put in, and because I didn't know how much I made, what my net business income was until the end of the year, I just waited for my tax preparer to tell me, hey, this is how much you can put into your solo 401k on the employer side of things. So, what I would recommend is do what you know you're safe with, and then anything that's above that, like, okay, I know for sure I can get away with putting $10,000 in my solo 401k employer side. Anything above that, I need to check with my CPA to confirm that I'm within the guidelines for the employer contributions of the solo 401k. And that, my friends, is how you get lazy with your investing is you check with the professionals who are going to know all the restrictions, all the calculations, and make sure that you are not doing what you shouldn't be doing. So that's the solo 401k. A few things to note about the solo 401k that are also unique is that you can have a Roth solo 401k or a traditional solo 401k. I personally use the traditional because I'm looking at trying to reduce my taxable burden. And then just like a regular 401k, you cannot access that money until you're 59 and a half years old. Obviously, there are ways of getting around that, like the Roth conversion ladder, but standard. You can't You can't take that money out until 59 and a half years old. And the way that my solo 401k was set up is I had to go to Vanguard, set it up online. It didn't take very long. It took like 15 minutes. And by the way, the reason I went with Vanguard and not Fidelity is because Fidelity's self-employed accounts, you have to call them to set it up. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. Why would I call you? So I went over to Vanguard, and sure enough, I could set the whole thing up online. So I was like, well, that was an easy choice. So I set mine up with Vanguard, and then they basically had me pay, I think it was $20 per mutual fund option that I wanted to have available in my solo 401k. But the whole thing took less than half an hour to set up. And it's a nice way for me to not only get deductions for my contributions that I put into my solo 401k, but also save money on taxes by allowing that money to grow tax deferred until I take it out in retirement. So that's what we got going on for the solo 401k, and that's my favorite account. There are definitely other accounts available out there. I just think that the solo 401k is the best. And what's also nice about the solo 401k is that if you were ever interested in doing a backdoor Roth, the solo 401k is never going to impact your ability to do a backdoor Roth IRA. I know that that can be a big concern for a lot of our high income earners. So, if that's a concern, you might want to consider that solo 401k. Granted, you can only have a solo 401k if you're a solopreneur. You can only have, in terms of employees, the only person who could be working for you would be your spouse. Anybody else working for you, and you no longer qualify for a solo 401k. So that doesn't count with contractors. Contractors don't count as employees. But personally, I think that it's the best account out there for solopreneurs. So hopefully that was helpful. But if you don't qualify for a solo 401k, you can also check out a SEP IRA and a simple IRA. I'm sure we will talk about those as well. But if you also DM me on Instagram and ask for self-employed retirement account cheat sheet, I will send you that. I got a post that's a little cheat sheet. The limits are a little out of date because it's from 2021, but I can send you those updated limits as well. So I hope you guys find that helpful. And that's our money tip for today. As always, this is not financial advice. This is for educational purposes only, and it's opinion based. So if you want to see our full disclaimer, head on into clobear.com and search for my terms and conditions. So today, let's get to the podcast episode. I am so excited to bring on Amanda Wolfe from Wolfe of Wall Street. She has become one of my closest friends, especially in the finance space. We met not that long ago in December 2021 or a little bit before then. It was right before I left Chicago. And we both lived in Chicago, but we had known each other on the internet for probably a year and a half. But we just took a lot of time, like actually meeting up in person. I don't think I even considered holding a meetup in Chicago for some reason. But when we did, I was like, oh my gosh, this chick is so cool. She's an incredible human being. She is so down to earth. She is so inquisitive, so smart. And the crap that she has been through in life to get to where she is truly mind-boggling. So I had the pleasure of being the very first person to host her on a podcast, so I'm very excited about that. But I hope you guys really enjoy the interview with her today. I know I did, but let's get right to it. Before we do, of course, friendly reminder, please rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. It helps us grow. And if you want this podcast to continue, that's how you tell me, is by rating, reviewing, and subscribing. So if you've done that, feel free to slip into my DMs and say, hey, I rated and reviewed and subscribed, so that I can thank you personally. So with that being said, let's get to it. All right. Welcome back to the Money Bear podcast. Today we have on one of my closest friends, especially in the finance space, and a fellow Chicago creator, although I don't know if I can say fellow Chicago creator anymore since I'm no longer a Chicagoan. But we've got Amanda Wolfe on today. She's from Wolfe of Wall Street. If you are not following her on Instagram and TikTok, you've got to remedy that situation immediately. But Amanda, welcome to the podcast. I'm so stoked to just chat with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I'm excited to do this.
Yes, and for those of you guys who are listening, as of now, the day of recording, we're recording on August 3rd. This is Amanda's very first podcast episode.
This is true. What is she going to be like? Is she going to be weird?
I know. Cool? You guys, I have to tell you, Amanda is way cooler in person than she is on the internet. And I have to tell you, she's really cool on the internet. But I remember, and I told this to Dalianne too when I was describing Amanda to Dalianne. I said, Amanda, like on the internet, she's so perfect. She's well put together. She's very polished. And then you meet her and she's a fucking savage. Like
Oh
she's
my
so down to earth. She will tell you like it is. Her voice is like a solid octave deeper.
Oh my gosh, I don't know about that.
I remember when I met you, I was like, I don't remember what you said, but at some point you cussed and I was like, oh, thank God. I was like, she cusses.
I just try to keep it like a little PG on the Instagram. I don't want to get like banned or anything, but yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And to be fair, out of the two people who are on this conversation right now, one of them has been taken down 6 times and it is not you.
Oh my God. That's true.
Right? So
But you
maybe
keep it real, girl. So like that's why people love you.
knock on wood because it keeps coming back. But anyway, so Amanda and I are friends in real life now as well, and it's been really great getting to know her. And as you guys know, I love getting in front of the camera and talking and things like that. So I'm always pushing Amanda to get on there and do these things with me too. So I'm so excited that she decided, you know what, let's come on the Money Bear podcast. So welcome. So happy to pop your podcast cherry.
Yes, no, I appreciate you like consistently pushing me out of my comfort zone because like you are just that friend when I like know like okay, this is the next thing I need to do. Hey Chloe, what do you think? And then she's just like guns hot, like you're my
Like,
cheerleader. Like I've said that from the beginning, like you are my hype girl, my cheerleader. You help push me over the edge. So here we
that
are.
makes
First
makes me so
podcast.
happy. Yes, yes. So Amanda, for those of you who are not following you or have not heard of you before, can you kind of give us your little elevator speech? Who are you in the real world and what do you do on the internet?
Sure. So, most well known probably for She Wolf of Wall Street. I started, this personal finance Instagram back in August of 2021. It started out just as a passion project alongside my day job. So, essentially, what happened was, for my day job at the time, I had created a personal finance course. For like one of the ERGs, and it just absolutely took off. And I realized just how much joy it brought me being able to help people. I like help people with a thing that like I like knew inside and out. So I was talking to some friends and they were like, you should start an Instagram. Like people need to know this stuff. So I started in August of 2021, just kind of like a little bit here and there. And then I would say I got serious about it in, oh wait, did I just say 2021? No, wrong year. COVID years are like throwing me off. What are we in 2022?
So confusing. Yes.
No.
20,
Okay. So like, let's take it
2020.
back. August of 2020. Sorry, not like less than a year ago. August of 2020 is when I started it. Then I got serious about it, I would say in like January-ish of 2021. And that's when I really started getting consistent with the content and, coming up with like a little more of a strategy so I could reach as many people as possible. Because as you know, creating content is like a full-time job. So, yeah, so, started, working on that like alongside my job. And to this day, I still do have a full-time corporate job, which to me, I think it just goes to show that you can still be really good at managing your money. You can learn how to invest. You can do all of that. You don't need a fancy financial advisor or a fancy finance degree to be able to manage your money. Like you can just have a regular day job like I do, and you can still master it. So I work in tech for my 9 to 5, and I do this. I call it my like 5 to 9, 5 to 9 in the morning, 5 to 9 at night. On the weekends, it's definitely still like very much full-time job alongside it. But yeah, that's my story. That's my kind of like careers right now, if you will.
Yeah. Well, and Amanda will be the first to tell you that I constantly pester her about when are you going to quit your job? When are you going to quit your job? But I think when we get into your story, it'll be very clear why you haven't taken the dive yet, especially because you know what? Trauma. Good
It's
old
real.
trauma. In fact,
Yay for trauma.
Funny side note, we have a little group chat with her and a couple of other finance creators who were out here in Encinitas a couple of weekends ago. And our group chat is my favorite group chat of all time. And we called it It's the Trauma.
It makes you who you are today.
It does. And I think it made us all interested in personal finance for a variety of different reasons. So it just kept coming up all weekend long. So we're like, it's the perfect name of the chat. So,
yeah.
Amanda, let's get to your story because I think you have probably one of the most interesting stories, one of the most inspiring and unbelievable stories out there, and have yet to share it completely with the world. So I am stoked to
True.
be able to be that person to help you
You
like get it
know?
out there. Yes. So kind of tell me what's your story? What made Amanda who she is?
Yeah, so is this like trauma talk now? Hashtag trauma
Trauma
talk.
talk. Yes, kind of tell us
Let's
about your childhood, all the ways that you were,
Oh my gosh. Like all jokes aside, I will say that for me, money is one of my very first memories of my whole life.
Mm,
And I know that might sound like wild to say, but for those of you who haven't like heard my story, to Chloe's point, like I've alluded to it here and there if you followed my Instagram, but I definitely haven't like sat down and talked about it. But I grew up really, really poor, and my parents were both addicted to hard drugs. So when you have an addiction like that, other things get kind of put to the wayside, even your children. So growing up, I was moving around from house to house, streets, attics, all these different kinds of places, and was just really bullied at school. For not like having a shower, wearing the same outfit every day. I would steal food from like grocery stores and gas stations just so that like we would have food to eat. So I'm talking like very, very poor. And so when I was little, I would look around at other people and I just knew my situation wasn't right. Like, I think of like 5-year old, 6-year old, 7-year old Amanda. Like I knew mine wasn't right, but like, and I knew other people's was different, but I couldn't really comprehend why. And so I noticed that the common theme was my mom, if I was like, well, why can't we buy clothes, or why can't we go on vacation, or why can't we have a house? My mom would always say, well, it's because those things cost money and we don't have money.
mhm.
And so I realized, okay, well, those people who do have money seem to have like birthday parties, and like Santa comes to their house and like they get clothes and then they get back to school supplies and they get like all this cool stuff. Like I want to have money. And so for me, it was like a very defining moment. And at like 5 years old, I was like, okay, I just need to do really good in school, because if I do good in school, then I'll get a good job. And if I have a good job, then I'm gonna have money for all those things when I'm older. And so that like thought literally followed me throughout my entire life. So not just like in kindergarten, which is some of my first memories of this, but it very well went like all the way through high school. It went into college. It went out of college. And so, when I graduated from college, it was my first year out of college. I was living in Chicago. That was like the thing to do. And I got there. And after my first year, I literally didn't know how much money I made until I got my tax return. And I made $77,000.
Mm.
That's a lot of money, right? But like, I was still living paycheck to paycheck. So I looked at my tax statement and I was like, wait, I made $77,000. What is going on here? Because I now have college loans. I still have like I have some credit card debt, and I made $77,000, which sounds like at 22 sounds like $10 million. Like,
Right.
and I have nothing to show for it. I thought like, and I had reached the end of the road at that point. My goal was like always get educated and you're going to have money. And I realized obviously, as probably most people do, that's not how things work. And so that was a second pivotal moment in my life, because I thought, okay, well, since that's not how this worked, I apparently don't know anything about money at all. And that's when I
Mhm.
was like, what are these debts? What are these interest rates? How do these work? Like, how does a credit card work? What is this 401k I just signed up for? And that really began my like personal finance journey, I would say, of understanding everything about debt, budgeting, investing, anything you can think of. And that was about age 22. So
Mm,
I'm 35 now, and I would, pretty much, of course, there's always more you could learn, but I would say I've pretty much like mastered everything that I've like needed to know in my life to be able to manage my own wealth and really, try to get a step ahead. I wasn't
mhm,
somebody who was handed generational wealth. There's never been a promise of that. There's never been a fallback opportunity.
mhm.
I've been living on my own since I was in high school. So for me, it was always like, this isn't a nice to have, this is a necessity, because if one day I can't pay my rent, like I will be homeless, or I will have to rely on a friend or something like that, because I don't have somebody to pick me up.
Right.
Um, so it was like very, very important for me my whole life. And so, that kind of like shaped how I got to where I am today. And I just realized like these last few years, I was helping like friends with money stuff. And I was like, I just assumed people learned this stuff from their parents, because like I didn't have that. And then
Right.
I realized, no, that's not true at all. Like we didn't learn it in school. And like, unless somebody's parents were well educated in this subject and open about talking about it with their kids.
Mhm.
Like nobody else is learning this either. And so that's kind of like where the evolution of the She Wolf of Wall Street came. And that's kind of where it all started
I
30
love
years
it.
ago. 5-year-old Amanda was like,
Yeah.
we got to
Well,
get money, girl. That seems
right.
important.
Truly. Well, and with your story, what I can't help but think about is how you completely beat the odds. Somebody who went through what you went through. I mean, you even spent time in foster care. You were homeless at some point. I remember you telling me you've lived under bridges and things like that. By all accounts, you were set up to fail. So, what do you think led you to take the cards that you were given and switch it around for yourself? Because if I remember right, at some point, and obviously, guys, I know Amanda's story pretty well at this point, so I'm taking from some other things that you've told me. I remember at one point the adults in your life said, like, you're not going to get out of this. Like, I don't know why you think that getting good grades is going to matter because you're not going to get out of this.
Yes. No, you are right. So, I'll say that like what propelled me, if you will, to like keep trying is because I saw what other people had
Hmm.
and I wanted that. I'm
Hmm.
like, I like the idea of having my own bedroom. Like all my friends had cool posters on their walls and like, you know, I was like, I want that too. Like I want a TV with cable where you can watch these cool shows. Like I want those things too. And so like as a little kid, that's what I thought about. But I did have like a really defining moment. So my parents associated with like a lot of people in the like who were also doing crack cocaine, heroin, like the very hard drugs. And so I remember like exactly sitting on this couch and one of their friends, we'll use quotes, air quotes here for friends, was sitting there and he was like sitting on the coffee table. And I don't even remember what we were talking about, but I said something like, oh yeah, well, when I'm older, like I'm going to have this or do this or whatever. And he just looks at me and he's like, God, I wish that was true. But you know what? Unfortunately, you're going to end up just like all of us. The odds of beating addiction in a family that's so deep rooted like yours is so rare. And I hope that you are the one who breaks out of this, but you probably won't. You're going to probably be here in 10 years, sitting here smoking out of this crack pipe with us. And I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, and I don't wish it on you. So if you ever want even a fighting chance, you can't touch anything your whole life, not even for fun.
Mm.
And he's like, but I don't think you will, unfortunately. I think you're going to be like your mom. You're going to get pregnant at 15 and you're going to be just like us. And it was like at that moment that I was like, I won't, I can't, I don't
That
like this.
Yeah. Like,
I
there's no
refuse.
option, right, like,
No,
that you saying that just gave me so many goosebumps of, like, it almost just feels like he took a second, like, out of reality to turn to you and, like, my hope would be he was trying to reverse psychology you. I don't know, based off of the
yeah,
information you've given, I doubt he had that much forethought, but it's almost like telling you that, like, it sounds like that really, really made an impact to solidify the fact that you're like, "There is no other option." Like,
yeah.
I will do this. I will find a way.
Yeah. And I mean, like I don't know what his intent was there. I will say that having grown up around addicts, most people don't like that they're an addict. They wish that they could go back.
Right.
They don't
Right.
like their lives, but they are just so sick that they can't stop. And most
Mhm.
people don't have the resources to even be able to break out of it because it's
Mhm.
like our healthcare system, which could probably be like an entire other topic, doesn't exactly cater to addiction and mental health issues. They either throw you in jail, they throw you in a hospital for 3 days, they throw you in a psych ward for 3 days, whatever. And so to get treatment is just an incredible privilege,
Mhm.
which is just laughable, but it's a privilege to be able to get help. And so most addicts, I think that you meet, like they don't like the situation they're in. And so when he was talking to me that day, it was like a very revolutionary moment. I was in, it's either third or fourth grade, fourth grade. It was
Wow.
definitely fourth grade. It was in fourth grade. And I just remember being like, no, I can't. Then I don't want to live because I don't like this.
Right, right.
I
Well, and
refuse.
for you, as someone who grew up with, like, literally no resources, this was just, like, a random thought that came to mind. How did you get funding for schooling? What was the process like for you? Were you able to get scholarships and things like that? Or was like, tell me what that process was for you.
Yeah. So, I have very much felt just like a fraud and imposter for like very much of my life. And when I was like very, very little, my friends got to the point where like their parents wouldn't let them hang out with me because my parents were around very dangerous people all the time. And naturally, once people got to meet my parents, they were like, that girl Amanda seems nice, but we can't have you hanging around her. So, once I got a little bit older and I was in high school and I started making, some real friends. I had actually like this one friend who was like pretty wealthy, and her parents were, I knew that I wanted to go to college because, like I said, the goal was always to get as much education as you're supposed to get,
Yeah.
quotes again, and then you got money. Like, that's great. So, my friend was going on college visits with her dad. And I was like, hey, can I go on those college visits with your dad? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, all right. So I went to whatever she went to. Like, I didn't even know how to look up colleges. I just was hearing and I went to a place where like not a lot of the people went to college.
Mm.
So we went to three schools. We went to Northwestern, we went to University of Illinois, and then we went to oh my gosh, what was it? IU, I think it was.
Like
I gotta
Indiana
remember.
University?
Yeah. And
Oh, yeah.
so, yeah. And so for, Northwestern, when we got there, I was like, okay, this is nice, but it just felt like everybody was very rich there. Like,
Mhm.
I was like, okay, I don't know if I'd fit in with these people. And then we went to
It's
U of I.
intimidating.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, wait, I could like get down with this, because I was like, am I just going to always feel like an outsider? So basically, and I don't know if this is a coping mechanism, this is trauma response, or what it is, but I was just like, whatever this friend does is what I'm doing. So she's like, I'm studying real hard for the ACT. I'm taking private lessons. Well, obviously I wasn't taking private lessons, but I was like, okay, well, I can look stuff up. Like, where are the practice tests? So I started
Mhm.
practicing as hard as I could for the ACT, like taking as many practice tests as I could. And then ended up like obviously taking the ACT, and I did like pretty well on it. And that is what prepared me to be able to like go to college. Because again, my focus had always been like education. So I was like working my ass off, like in school, to like get as best grades as I possibly could at all times, while like still working to like have money for things.
Right.
And it was always just like that. So basically I just followed whatever she was doing. She's like, okay, well, now it's time. We got to do early admissions. Because
Mm.
that's how you get a better chance of getting in. I'm like, okay, well, where do I send it? So it was literally whatever her parents told her to do. I was like, can you
Yeah.
pass that on to me so I can,
It's like
like, yeah,
you like borrowed her privilege almost. And like
yes,
the fact that she had the privilege of having parents who knew what you needed to do, because my parents didn't know any of this
yeah,
either. Like you're like, okay, cool. Your parents seem to have it figured out. So I'm gonna do
yeah,
whatever it is you're doing.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing.
And then it got to the point where it came to funding, and like her parents just paid for her college. She didn't have to take any loans out, like
Mm.
very wealthy. But then I did, and I was like, okay, well, now how do I pay for this? So I went to my like high school counselor and sat down and was like, what do I need to do? And she was like,
Hmm.
well, I don't know, but I'll help you figure it out, because like I said, not that many people like went to
Yeah.
college or really utilize the high school counselors. I think they're definitely an underutilized resource. But she helped me figure out like how to apply for grants, how to apply for scholarships, and then I did take out some loans. But I had to like dig stuff up, which was not fun because I was not as open about talking about like my
Hmm.
mom, because I was not living with my mom at the time.
Hmm.
At this point, I was living by myself in an apartment. So, I had to like dig up letters that my mom had sent from like jail. I had to show when we became a ward of the state. I had to
Mm.
like dig up all of this information, be like, hello, yes, I need financial assistance, please. And,
Right.
I was able to get a lot of help. So at the end of college, I had about $35,000 in student loans, but 10,000 of it was from studying abroad, which,
Okay.
because that wasn't covered like at all, which
Hmm.
was worth it for me. That was like the best $10,000 I've ever spent in my life for sure.
Yeah.
But, I had friends who came out with $100,000 in loans. So going to college is no joke, but I did get a lot of it covered through grants, scholarships, etc.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic because I feel like even like when we were listening to Mark from Better Wallet's story about how, he's the person who should be getting grant funding or scholarships, and like even for him it was really difficult for him to get funding. So I was really curious, yeah, what that process was like
Well,
for you.
Well, yeah, and I'll also say that I've just I've never been the person who was like afraid to ask questions. In
Yeah,
fact, in first grade, I remember they like gave out awards, and I remember mine was she's never afraid to ask a question. So
that's
I have
cute.
like just always been like, okay, well, what do I need to do? Like, I'm not afraid to reach out to resources. So when I actually got to college, it was freshman year, and I got like all of this paperwork back about the different loans that I would be given the option to take out. And I
Hmm.
sat there and I was like, okay, well, what the hell do I like? How much do I need? What,
Yeah.
like, what, why are they giving me all this? Do I take all of it?
Mm.
When do I get it? So I literally went and knocked on the RA's door, who like, and these are college students
Right,
themselves, right? And
right.
I was like, what are subsidized loans and unsubsidized loans? Like, how much do I actually need to pay for school? What's not covered by grants and scholarships? Like, what do I need? And she's like, I don't know, but like, my dad's an investment banker. Let's just call him. So like, we literally like three-way called her dad. I'm pretty sure I like sent my stuff over to him. He basically was like, you only should take out the subsidized loans. Do not take, just decline the unsubsidized loan.
Mm.
And if you're able to like even get a part-time job, you should not need to take out the unsubsidized loans. That's going to accrue interest so much faster. And at the time I was like, what does all this mean?
Right.
And I am just so grateful because I probably would have had double the loans if I had taken out the unsubsidized loans as well.
Right. Oh my God, that's so amazing that you've got like these little like shining lights within all of these like obviously bad experiences of like this moment where because you weren't afraid to ask questions and weren't afraid to ask for help, it was like,
Yeah.
okay, sure, let's get you the resources you need. Like that's amazing. I love that you were able to
Yeah.
like have a conversation with an investment banker.
Yeah.
I couldn't have navigated the system by myself. Like I don't think I was resourceful enough to have tried to figure that on my own, and even just recognizing that was a privilege to have my parents apply for FAFSA for me. It's like, I
Mhm.
wasn't doing that stuff. I didn't understand the first thing about applying for that. So, it's amazing to hear not only that because you were also doing all of this while still living in a like, I guess by the time you were in high school and you had your own apartment, would you say that was, like, the most stability you had had up until that point?
Um, I don't even know if I'd call that stable. I felt like
Right.
it was no, because I was like always nervous that I wasn't gonna like have enough money for rent. So
Right.
I mean, maybe like it was safe for sure, but like, oh gosh, I think that would be loosely using the word. I would say like I felt more stable once I got to college and I
Mhm.
like, and you know what this is like, where you get somewhere and it is safe and it is stable, but you still feel like everything's just going to be ripped away in an instant. Like, I mean, trauma, right? That's what we bonded over.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
so I would say like I truthfully probably haven't felt like stable and okay, especially from a financial perspective, because to me, like that's been the basis of everything. Like
Yeah,
probably until like the last few years, honestly.
yeah,
I've always felt like, oh my gosh. And I still sometimes feel like it's all gonna be ripped away, but I'm just like, no, like I have sufficient savings, investments. Like I've really set myself up that if I lost my job or like She Wolf went away, like it would suck, but
you're
I've never been the
okay.
person who won't like it will be okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So from a stability perspective, like I don't think I've ever really like felt stable,
Yeah.
safe until the last few years.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was thinking of is like you were doing all of this while dealing with a stable environment. Like the fact that you were able to get good grades, to work a job, to also do all the work that comes with like trying to find financial aid and trying to find like a way to fund your education. It's like the fact that you were able to do all of that while also living in a scenario where it never really felt stable is just incredible. Like I think you are one of the most resilient people I've ever met, truly.
No, I appreciate that. I like because I've definitely had feelings like this, like, it almost feels like a fake life from
Yeah.
so long like, how did I get here? And, like, am I just gonna fall apart one day? And Kristen Bell, like, of all people, like, this is just so random, but I saw an article one time where she has depression, like, I'm very
Mm.
lucky, I don't, like, have any mental health issues really that I'm, like, aware of, but she has depression and people would always say to her, like, "You're rich and famous, how do you have depression?"
Mm.
And she's like, I mean, it's not that I don't know, I'm, like, so lucky, it's just my brain handles things differently, and that was,
Yeah.
like, a really, like, a thing that stood out to me because I was like, "Yeah," because 'cause I've been sitting here wondering, like, on paper, this is all, like, really fudged up. I don't wanna have the explicit rating on your podcast, so is it, like, oh, this is all, like, real fudged up, so, like, how did I end up, like, okay? Like, it seems surreal, and I just realized, like, my brain does operate differently. For sure, there's, like, so many things that come into play: resilience, determination, privilege of just being a white woman, like all of the things, but also like I'm lucky that my brain works the way that it does and that
Mhm.
it's able to like let go of things and just move on and like that it works the way that it does.
Yeah, it's so true, and I love that you're talking about that because it's a luck of a draw when it comes to your brain chemistry. And like,
Yeah.
even with you and your siblings, like it's a clear each one of you handled the situation very differently. And it's wild that you
Mhm.
can grow up in the exact same environment and have different reactions and different coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
But we didn't get to choose that, unfortunately.
No.
Um, so for you, obviously there are people who are going through similar situations out there and that exist. What was kind of when you did come to this point of realizing I need to get my finances in order, I have to figure this out, I can't keep living this way. Like, what were the steps that you took? What was like your go-to thing?
Yeah, so, I would say, well, first of all, if anybody is, like, in the situation where they feel like everything is a hot mess, they'll never be able to get out of, like, because I mean, I'm looking at my debt at the time, it was like $37,000 of college loans. I saw the interest accruing every day of, like, more and more, and then I had the credit card debt, and I saw my paychecks, and I was like, "How what?" I would just say, like, remember that your current situation is not your permanent situation.
Mhm.
Even if it's a 10-year plan, it's a 10-year plan, it will happen. So
Yeah.
I think that the first step is sitting down and facing it. And that's like what I had to do is I sat down and I looked and I just gathered everything. I'm like,
Mhm.
what am I working with here? Okay, I don't know what half of this stuff means. It is literally like I'm reading another language right now.
Mhm.
And it was a matter of one, just using good old fashioned Google, but also the resources. So, like, when it came to my college loans, I literally called the like number that you can call for your college loans. And I was like, can you walk me through what all these means? Why do I have like 10 loans? I thought I took out one loan.
Mm, mhm.
Why do I have 10? Why do they have different rates? How do interest rates work? Like, how long? Like, so do I just pay one off at a time? So I literally called them and I was like, can you walk me through this? And then when they were like, oh, this is why actually you take them out for multiple blank, whatever. I'm not going to go into explain it, but I literally just called the companies and had the people walk me through it. When
Mhm.
it came to like my credit card, I was like, can you like help me understand like what is minimum payment? Why is it different than statement balance? Why is it different than current? What does this mean? And
Yeah.
they literally walked me through when it was my 401k, like, that I signed up through my job and I was in a training class and like one of the guys in my class is like, just put down 10% and have it increase 1% every year. And I'm like, well, what? I'm just giving my paycheck away. He's like, yeah,
Right.
but you'll be happy later. And I'm like, okay. So I did. So then it was like, I'm going to call Fidelity and be like, what is a 401k and why am I giving you my money? Like, so it was just literally using the resources
Love
at my
that.
fingertips.
So I have to ask, when you were calling these numbers, because I don't think a lot of people anymore would do that because I think we would all assume, but I think that's a great idea. I think we would all assume, oh, they're going to be too high level. They're not going to explain this stuff to me. How is your experience in calling these brokerages or these banks or things like that? Were they able to break it down for you in a way that you were able to understand?
Yeah. And some of them I called 10 times
Oh
because
my gosh.
I mean, because it's the luck of the draw of like who you get on the
Yeah.
phone. So what I would say first of all is to remember that like these call center people get a lot of calls every day and they're like exhausted. So I made sure to thank them a lot. Like I just led with, "Hey, I don't know what I'm doing, and I took out these college loans, and I'm 22, and I'm like trying to navigate this world. And what is this? Why do I have
Mhm.
10? Like, thank you so much for. I know you're so busy. Thank you so much for taking the time to explain this to me. Like, I just made sure to let them know, like, I know that their time is valuable too, and like, you don't have to do this. So thank you. I'm
Yeah.
very grateful. And I think it's just a matter of like, and then when you hang up, if something still doesn't make sense, you can call back and look at a different person and they might explain it
Right.
differently.
Right.
And
I
so
I love
that's what I
that
did.
tip. I love that tip though, because even like when I have a lot of people who are in the Lazy Investors course who are expats living abroad and they have country specific questions. And I'm like, I don't have the answers for your country specific questions, but what I would recommend doing is find a brokerage there, like a local brokerage, call and ask, what are your options? And like, it's refreshing to hear. And, obviously it's not a guarantee that that's going to work everywhere, but it's refreshing to hear that you had a decent experience. But again, I love the resilience of maybe the first call didn't work, maybe the second call didn't work, maybe the third call didn't work, but you kept calling. Like
Yeah.
again, it's just a testament to your resilience. And it's funny also because as you're saying, like how good you are at asking questions, I'm like, you are actually, because I remember when we were going through the funnel, it was like you had every question imaginable. And I was like, Amanda, I don't even know where you think of these questions. And like
Oh my
it was so funny because it'd be like we'd have like a 2-hour call And then
Yeah.
like she'd call me like a couple more times, like with just random questions. And every time she had one question, she'd have like 10 more questions. And I'm just like, but like, what an amazing skill, because so many people are too, or their ego wouldn't let them ask those questions. They
Yeah.
would feel embarrassed having to call multiple times, or they would feel like, I'm just not going to get it, or I'm just, it's not for me. But you do
Yes.
not have that. That's not how your brain work. Your brain goes, nah, let's try again. Let's keep doing it.
Yeah.
Let's keep going and going and going. And it's obviously worked out really well for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think like as long as yes, and by the way, like I said, Chloe, my hype girl, like has just you've helped me with so many things. I mean, like I feel like we are similar in the fact that we like helping people, right? Like
100%.
love helping people.
Yep.
So I think that when I have a question for someone else and I can tell that they genuinely want to help, like it doesn't make me feel bad or embarrassed because I'm like, well, wait, I like doing this for people when I know something.
Yeah.
So why not? Like, I just
Hmm.
don't think that we're like meant to figure out life alone. I think that we should be able to like lean on people. And if it causes, like, if you feel like you're asking like a dumb question, it's like, well, I'd rather just have a dumb question for like 1 minute and be done with it than like still have the dumb question in 5 years. Like,
Yeah,
let's just do this.
exactly. And asking questions, it's like this vulnerable thing I think we do. And it's saying, "Hey, I don't know." And so I think the practice, because it's hard for me sometimes to ask questions. I love helping people, but it's so refreshing to hear about like the power of asking questions. And like I think that's one of your superpowers, is like the resiliency to be able to do that in a way that's very humbling, of like, yeah, I don't know the answer to this, so I'm going to find out, I'm going to ask. And it's like forget that ego. So
Yeah,
I
no.
love it. It's brilliant. And she did thank me a lot, guys. So
Yeah,
the whole thanking thing absolutely works.
yeah, I mean, because they are taking their valuable time to like help you. I was like, you want me to hire you for coaching? Like, should I hire you right now? And you're like, we're friends. I was like, I know, but still, like, I'm taking your
Yes.
time. It's valuable. Like, I think that that goes a long way.
I completely agree. Okay, so let's do a quick little. I have two more questions for you. This
Mhm.
one's like a question for somebody who, is getting started with their finances, doesn't know what to do, doesn't know which way to turn, maybe had an upbringing similar to yours. What would be the top three things that you would tell them to start doing?
Okay, so similar upbringing to mine, where basically we're going to assume minimal to no support system. You are financially responsible for yourself only, and it's just a matter of figuring things out. I think, first of all, is like to sit down and look at what you're working with. Like,
Hmm.
and it could be just as simple as like a budget. As in, when I say a budget, I don't mean like go write out a full budget, but literally look at what's coming in and what's going out. Is
Hmm.
one number bigger than the other? Like, let's just start with the basics there. If the going out number is bigger than the coming in number, you likely have some debt and you likely have something you need to change, whether that's your actual expenses or you need to like change your whole job. I think that, you know, like, and I wrote this like actually the other day on my Instagram. It's like, we like constantly as a society are like, go chase your dreams. And I'm like, I think that's a lovely thing to do on the side of a stable job if you have no
Yes.
stable background. Because for me, I think as long as you are not dreading your job every single day, as long as you are like fine with it and you make that one piece of your life and it can bring in the income to like help you become financially stable, that's what you should be shooting for, and then everything else can be on the side. So for
Completely
me,
agree.
it would be like, let's understand what's coming in, what's going out. Okay, now let's like look at probably increasing our income, unless you are like
Hmm.
already like very affluent, which you probably aren't listening, you probably don't even need this anyway. But let's look at increasing your income, because if you don't have like a support system who's going to be able to help you financially one day, then you really need a bigger nest egg for yourself.
Hmm.
Or if you're somebody who has to help family members, like, you're whether maybe like, and I see this like a lot with just like even like immigrant families where they want to send money back home to their like family, or they need to help their parents with their retirement because they moved here when they were in high school, whatever your
Hmm.
situation is. Like, you need to look at increasing your income, whether that's getting a side hustle for a few years, getting a better paying job. Like, you need to bring in more income than I think the average person does,
Hmm.
to build up just like I said, that nest egg, and a healthier amount of money than maybe somebody else who their family is taking care of themselves.
For
So that would
sure.
be my second thing.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that statement. And it's funny because I had a post about that, I think yesterday, where it's just like,
Oh,
don't focus so much on the dream job, focus on your dream life and what do you need to get that dream
yes.
life. And a lot of the
Yes.
time, what do we need to get our dream life? We need more money.
Money, honey. Like whoever says
Money.
money doesn't bring happiness to me, I'm like, you've definitely never not had money then, because
Yes.
it's, I mean, I don't want to say, oh no, my health is worth more than my money. Okay, well, how are you going to that doctor? What
How you
bed are you
gonna
sleeping on?
how are you gonna
What
be
shoes are you
healthy?
walking in? What,
Mm-hmm.
like, you take
Mm-hmm.
medication? Oh, not if you don't have money. Like, unless you're in another country. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's everything. So
It's
that's why
everything.
that's why I say let's understand what's coming in, what's going out, and look to increase your income in some way if you have no support system, or your dream life, to like your point, involves you helping other people. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
going to be more money, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then the third thing I would say is to like honestly get your dome right, get your mind right, because that is the foundation to anything, whether it's paying off debt, building a budget, living a happy life, being okay with where you are, like, is to get your mind right. And that means
Mm-hmm.
giving yourself forgiveness for any mistakes that you made in the past. That means like being okay to push yourself out of your comfort zone, doing things that you wouldn't normally do, like to, get you to where you need to be. Like, get your mind right.
Yeah.
Be your own cheerleader. Do a gratitude journal if you have to. Start reading some books, join a class, get in a group, whatever it is that you need to do to like build yourself up to be like, yeah, it's going to be okay. Like, you have to do that, because otherwise, honestly, everything else will crumble. Like I said, it's the
Completely
foundation.
agree. 100 million bajillion percent agree. I tell people all the time I could not get my money right until I got my mind right. And that included going to therapy and figuring out my own life first. And then I was like, well, cool, I did that. Now I got to fix this part of my life, this whole money situation.
Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
especially if you, I think, like grew up poor, like you probably have a lot of self limiting and maybe even some self sabotaging beliefs about yourself or about
Mhm.
your opportunities. Or, like I read in this book, The Mountain is You. So if you guys are
By the
looking
way,
for, did you buy it?
yeah, I got it. It came in
Yeah.
this teeny little thing and it was from, I didn't realize it was published by the Thought Catalog. I used to write for them.
Oh my gosh, well, look at
Yeah.
that. Well, that to me was like a very transformational book. And it was one of those like aha moments for me. I was like, wait, this all just suddenly makes sense for me.
Mhm.
And there was like this line where or this section where she talks about how like we all have like a comfort level, and it's like your baseline.
Mhm.
And whether you go too far above it or too far below it can cause you to like self sabotage, because you can only go so far away from your, like your oh my gosh, what's the word I'm using here? Your baseline.
Your
You can only go
baseline.
so far above or below it before you start wanting to get closer back down to your line. So whether the greatest thing happened to you or the worst thing, you want to get back to that line. And in order to start raising yourself higher and higher and higher, you have to like be okay with slightly pushing yourself out of your comfort zone on a regular basis and slightly elevating that line. You can't do too much
Mhm.
at once. And so I think that, like, for me, like I said, that was a really transformational book, but it also helped me get my mind right and look back at myself and be like, oh wait, sometimes when things are going really well for me, I self-sabotage. Like I stop doing this thing, or I do this thing instead. Like, why do I do that? And it was like recognizing those things. And I think that's like helped me just continue to push myself, like as a business owner and just like as a person in general, to like reach that next level. It's, for you guys all listening, Chloe is like the connector. She is like the extroverted connector. As she mentioned, she got a bunch of us together in like outside of San Diego, California, to meet up and just hang. And it was like at that point where, I'm surrounding myself with people where maybe they've been doing this like business thing for a little longer than me. And I can like see the opportunities, things that I didn't even realize existed. And so it's just a matter of like pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. But to do that, you got to get your mind right. So like that's
100%.
that's what it's got to be. But that's a great book if anybody's like looking for somewhere to start.
Yes, The Mountain is me. I
The
actually
Mountain
have
is
that
You.
on,
Yeah.
or sorry, yeah, The Mountain is you. No, it's you. It's not you, it's you.
I am the mountain. Yes, I am my own mountain. Yes.
Yes. Um, I love that. And to give you guys some more context too, the reason that Amanda mentioned that getting together for a weekend is because Amanda is a self-identified introvert
Yeah.
who is not the type of person who would normally do that. And what was funny is that entire weekend was introverts, except for
Yeah,
me.
that's true.
And I remember sitting around the table at one point and everybody was talking about how uncomfortable attention made them. And I was like, I don't relate, guys.
Not me. I
I was
cannot.
like, I live for attention. I was like, I
I will
literally
twerk
can't
on
get.
camera.
I will twerk on
I will
camera
twerk
and.
on demand.
Oh my God, I love it. And that's such good advice. So before we get to my final question, tell everybody where they can find you at. Got any stuff going on that you want to promote? Give us your what's going on.
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, I'm most well known on Instagram, She Wolf of Wall Street, and Wolf has an E. It's She WOLFE of Wall Street. There are like a lot of scam accounts out there that I cannot get rid of. So just make sure you're looking for the OG one. Instagram, and then I have a TikTok that is I'm working on it, guys. I'm like trying real hard. My goal is to put a little more effort into that, but I'm going to try to make some like different unique content for TikTok. So go ahead and be like one of my first people. Join me on TikTok. You can also just find me on shewolfofwallstreet.com, where I have, some things that I occasionally offer. I have a free investing class that, depending when this airs, is going to be coming up, and just some other additional resources, courses that I put together that will help you cover your budgeting, your debt payoff journey, investing. I know Chloe, obviously you have one as well, but it covers some different things as well if you're looking for ways to
Yeah.
supplement. So
Well, and Amanda is the one who I always reference people to when they're looking for, debt payoff or budgeting. Because I'm like, I don't do that stuff. You go
mhm.
go to She Wolf.
For me, I needed the holistic thing from start to finish. So that is like
Hmm.
what I offer as well. But yeah, and like I said, I host free classes every once in a while too. So you can find it on shewolfofwallstreet.com.
Yep, and we'll leave links to all that down in the show notes. Okay,
Cool.
final fun question
Oh,
for
okay.
you.
Oh gosh.
What is your very first money memory?
Oh my gosh. Um, my very first money, like a good one or a bad, the first time that I remember money
Which
being talked about,
the
oh,
youngest, like your youngest money memory. It could be good, it could be bad. Like for example, I just had Vanessa on today, and she was talking about how she remembers getting money from her parents to buy candy, but she would always save 10%. So
oh my
she was
gosh.
she was
What a
like,
good girl.
I
Dang.
know. Well, what was funny is then she proceeded to get, completely forget about that method later on in life and go to credit card debt. And she's like, why didn't I keep that skill?
That's so
So,
funny.
right?
Oh
It's
my
so funny.
gosh. I mean, okay, actually, it's kind of like, I guess it's a money thing. You let me know if this lands. But it's actually my first memory of my whole life. And I was 3 years old, and I was at the fair with my mom. My mom had me very young. She had me at 16. So like, imagine she's a child raising a child, right? And we were at the fair, and I saw somebody with a corn dog, and I didn't know what a corn dog was. And I was like, Mom, I need that. And she was like, I'm not getting that for you. You don't like cornbread or hot dogs. You're not going to like that. And I was like, well, no, that looks cool. Like, I really want that. And she's like, they're like $4. That's expensive.
Hmm.
Like, I don't just have money to get a corn dog. And I was like, Mom, I need to have that corn dog. And she's like, you better eat. If I'm spending $4 on this, you better eat every bite of this. And I was like, I will. And then she gave it to me, and I took a bite of it, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's right. I don't like this. And I was like, but it was $4. And so I was like, she looks at me and she's like, do you like it? And I was like, yeah, no, it's very good. And I ate the whole thing. And the whole time I was like, I don't like this at all, but it was $4. And
Gosh.
that is like such a random memory, but I just remember exactly how much it cost. And I just remember being in the hot sun, eating this hot dog with cornbread around it. And I was like, this is not good.
God, do you ever eat corn dogs now, or has that
No,
completely?
I've never liked hot dogs. I just like obviously like thought it looked cool. And
That's
yeah, it was
so
like years
funny.
later that I was like talking about it with my mom, like I don't know, maybe when I was in like second grade, she's like, you remember that? That like you were 3. How do you? And I was like, it must have been my first lie too. Like, I don't know. Maybe it was like a very formative memory, like talking about money and like how I know we didn't have a lot and I really wanted this thing and then I didn't like it. It was a waste and I was scared. And
And you're like,
yeah, so
I'm gonna eat it anyway. I'm like,
yeah,
oh
I
my
was
God,
like,
that's
yes, it's good.
adorable.
It's
This is
like,
great. Oh my God.
it's very good.
Now
Yeah.
I'm trying to like figure out how that like made you who you are today.
Yeah.
Like, this is like your formidable memory, like your
Yes.
first. Wow, I've never thought about my first life memory. That is wild. I can't,
Yeah.
I'd have to think about that, but I can't
I,
imagine it's anything
yeah.
significant.
I mean, obviously mine isn't either. Like I said, I mean, that's why I'm like, I mean, this was my first time like remembering
Yeah,
about money. And I remember being like, oh, $4 is a lot of money. Mom said this is a lot of money. And so I
right.
got to eat this now.
Right, right. Oh, that's too funny. That's adorable. I love that you're just like,
So,
"'Cause I'm gonna eat it
no,
now,"
no,
which
this is
also
good.
now
I
it
like it.
explains I know, right? Now that explains Amanda at restaurants will order exactly what she wants. So, maybe
Yes.
that's what it
Yeah,
is. Maybe you're
I
like,
refuse to
"Very
settle.
good." She's
Oh
like,
my
"Listen, listen."
gosh.
She'll be like, "I want the salmon, but I don't like beets. Like, what else you
No,
got?"
no, I know. Like nothing that's going to be inconvenient, but like, could you just not put that on it?
Exactly,
Thanks.
exactly. Or what was it that at that restaurant, it was like chimichurri sauce or something that they brought you,
Yeah, give
but
me
they brought
that.
you
Give me
2
that.
options?
Yep, because you could
Yep.
tell I didn't know. I mean, at Starbucks, I order my coffee at a specific temperature. It is 140 degrees, which is also the kids' temp because I don't like things too hot or too cold. I like it just right. So I
That's
don't get ice in
adorable.
my cappuccino. I get it 140 degrees. So
Oh my god, I love that. Yes, that's how the corn dog impacted you.
it is childhood trauma that has just lasted in ways that I didn't even know. Where it's like, if I'm spending my money on something, it's gonna be something I like.
Heck yes, I love that. That's too
Oh my
funny.
gosh.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I am so honored that you chose the Money Bear podcast to break your podcast cherry.
Yes, girl.
So, well, we will connect everything to you down in the show notes. But thanks again. This was so fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of
Appreciate it.
course. See what I tell you guys. Pretty amazing story, right? I think that Amanda is one of the most inspirational people that I know, and she's so humble and so down to earth. And it has been a true honor being her friend and getting to know her. And I am so honored that she decided to use the Money Bear podcast as her introduction into the podcasting world. So I hope you guys loved it. Like I said, I'll leave her links down in the show notes, but she's pretty easy to find. She Wolf of Wall Street, one of my favorite humans. So as always, since we have made it this far, a friendly reminder to please rate, review, and subscribe. We appreciate the crap out of you guys for doing that because it tells us you like what we're doing and it tells us that you want us to keep doing it. So if that's you, please be sure to do that. It takes about 2 seconds. And I literally left a review for myself. So if you don't know what to say, just slide on over to like where you see Clobear Money Coach talking about Clobear Money Coach. And you can use that as a template. I did that for you guys. So check that out there. And of course, since we are talking about money, this is just a friendly reminder that nothing on this podcast is intended as financial advice. It is opinion and entertainment and educational purposes only. If you want to check out our entire terms and conditions, just head on over to clobear.com and search for the terms and conditions page. So that's what I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. If you have not started your money journey yet and you want to get started, check out my free 30-page guide listed down in the show notes at thelazyinvestorscourse.com/guide. That has helped a lot of people get their money right. So check it out. It's free, even though my friends tell me that I should charge about $30 for it. And of course, I've also got an investing class coming up, also free. So check out that in the show notes down below. You can also access it at thelazyinvestorscourse.com/webinar. So that's all I got for you guys today. I'll see y'all next week. Bye bye.